The water company charges your building one price. You pay a higher one. A company you've never heard of pockets the difference, and it just sold for $5 billion. Here is the part almost no renter knows. When you pay for water, or gas, or electricity in a large apartment building, there is a decent chance the bill in your hand did not come from the utility. It came from a third company, sitting quietly between the two. That company has a name most people will never hear: Conservice, and it touches close to 8 million units across the country. Its job sounds boring on purpose. It reads the meters, splits the building's utility costs, prints the bills, and collects the money from each tenant every month. The whole operation is designed to look dull and administrative, and that dullness is exactly the camouflage. Because somewhere in that quiet handoff, a spread opens up, and the part nobody talks about is just how wide that spread can get. This is not a niche operation either. Industry estimates put the broader submetering market at close to $4 billion a year, and climbing. And the Department of Energy figures something like a third of multifamily buildings have already moved to submetering of some kind. With more than 40 million renter households in the country, tens of millions of Americans are inside this system right now without ever having heard the word. Start with the building. A large apartment complex does not get 100 separate water accounts. It usually gets one master account, billed at a commercial rate, because the utility would rather sell in bulk to one big customer than chase 1,000 small ones. That bulk rate is lower. That is the wholesale side. Now the building owner has a choice. They could fold utilities into the rent, eat the bill themselves, and move on. And plenty of smaller landlords do exactly that. But there is a more profitable path, and it runs straight through a submetering company. The submetering company installs a small meter on each unit, sitting downstream of the master meter. It reads each one, bills each tenant for what that unit actually used, but at the higher residential rate, and then keeps the building owner whole on the master bill they owe. The gap between the bulk rate going in and the retail rate going out does not disappear anywhere. It quietly gets captured by the company in the middle. And then comes the part the utility itself is not allowed to do. On top of the usage charge, the bill carries a service fee, which might show up as a monthly billing charge, a one-time setup charge, or a convenience fee for paying online. Those are line items a regulated public utility is legally barred from tacking on, and here they sit layered cleanly on top of the spread. Per tenant, it looks like nothing, just a few dollars a month, the kind of number no one bothers to question. But multiply a few dollars by close to 8 million units, charge it every month, and let it run for years, and you start to see the real shape of the thing. The genius of it is that no single tenant ever has a reason to fight. Disputing a $4 billing fee costs more in time and irritation than the fee itself, so almost nobody does. The company is not extracting a fortune from any one person. It is extracting a sliver from millions of people at once, and a sliver at that scale is an empire. And the menu of fees rarely stops at one. Beyond the core billing charge, a tenant might see a late fee, a paper statement fee, a fee for paying with a card, and a final bill or move-out processing charge when they leave. Each one is defensible on its own. Each one is small, and each one stacks onto the same monthly relationship the company already controls. The property owner is happy because the whole headache of utilities is off their plate, and they often get a cut of the recovered costs. The utility is happy because it sells in bulk to one reliable account, and the only party without a seat at the table is the tenant, who simply pays whatever the bill says. And there is a second version of this model that is even harder to see because it uses no meters at all. It is called RUBS, short for Ratio Utility Billing. Instead of measuring what each unit actually uses, the building takes its one master bill and divides it among tenants by a formula based on things like square footage, the number of occupants, or the number of bedrooms. The tenant gets charged a share of the total, but never sees the formula, never sees the master bill, and has no meter on the wall to point to. You cannot audit a number you are not allowed to see in the first place. RUBS is the murkier cousin of submetering, and the appeal to a landlord is obvious because there are no meters to buy and install, which means a building can switch on this revenue stream almost overnight. We will come back to why that murkiness matters. For a long time, this was a quiet, unglamorous corner of real estate, the kind of business nobody put on a magazine cover. Then, the smart money noticed. In December 2025, the private equity firm TPG agreed to buy a majority stake in Conservice, in a deal that valued the company at roughly $5 billion. To understand why a sophisticated investor writes a check that size for a company that mostly prints bills, you have to look at what they are actually buying. And on paper, it is close to a perfect business. Start with the revenue. It is recurring, in the deepest sense of the word. People pay for water and power every single month without deciding to, without a sales pitch. In good times and bad, there is no churn problem when the product is the thing keeping the lights on. Then look at the margins. On roughly $650 million in revenue last year, the business kept around $200 million in operating profit. That is roughly a third of every dollar falling to the bottom line. The kind of margin software companies dream about, on a business that is really just meters and math. And it is sticky in a way that is hard to overstate. Once a submetering company is wired into a property's billing, ripping it out means replumbing the entire flow of money for thousands of tenants, retraining staff, and risking a billing mess across every unit at once. Property managers do not switch providers on a whim, and the bigger the portfolio, the less they want to touch it. That is a moat made of pure inconvenience, and inconvenience is one of the most underrated moats in business. There's one more layer that makes this even more attractive to an investor, and it is the quietest one. The company is collecting and holding other people's money on its way from tenant to utility. It manages the float, the billing relationships, and the data on millions of units, which over time becomes its own kind of asset. A map of how an entire slice of the country pays for power and water. Put those traits together, and you get the exact profile private equity hunts for. A business with recurring revenue, fat margins, almost no churn, and a built-in moat. Conservice did not reach a $5 billion valuation by being exciting. It got there by being unavoidable, which in this business is worth far more. So sit with the actual mechanism for a second, because it is more clever than it first looks. This company did not invent a product. It did not find new customers. It did not build a factory. It found a cost that every single building in America was already paying: water, power, gas, and it inserted itself into the half-inch of space between the wholesale price and the retail price. A spread that was sitting in plain sight for decades, and almost nobody thought to stand in it. That is the whole game. Not a better mousetrap. A better position. And here is where the tension comes in, because a model this clean eventually attracts attention. A 2013 newspaper investigation in Ohio found tenants in some buildings paying markups well above what their neighbors paid, buying direct from the utility, in a few cases on the order of 40% more for the same electricity. For years, not much happened. Then, more than a decade later, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that one of these resellers was, legally speaking, a public utility and should be regulated like one. The state's own governor went further, vetoing a bill meant to formalize the industry and calling the model, in his words, fundamentally flawed. The core of the legal fight is deceptively simple. If a company buys electricity and then sells that electricity to consumers, a court can decide it is in the business of supplying electricity. And supplying electricity to the public is the textbook definition of a utility, a label that drags rate caps and consumer protections along behind it. That is the reclassification risk now hanging over the entire industry, and regulators in other states are circling the same question. So the honest framing here is a question, not a verdict. Is this a brilliant recurring revenue machine that simply organized a billing mess nobody else wanted to touch and got paid fairly for the service? Or is it a toll booth quietly installed on a road everybody has to drive, collecting a fee for standing in a spot it chose? The facts genuinely support both readings, and reasonable people land in very different places. But strip away which side you take, and the same fact is sitting there either way. The most durable businesses are not always the ones with the best product. Sometimes they are the ones that found a flow of money that already existed and quietly stepped into the middle of it. The water was always going to be sold. The only question was, who got to stand in the gap and collect? If you made it this far, thank you. Please like and subscribe, and check out our other videos, dropped weekly. So the next time a utility bill slides under your door, look past the number for a second. Look at the fee printed quietly underneath it. Somewhere up the chain, that line item is somebody's entire business worth $5 billion built on a spread you were never meant to notice.